Hello, welcome to Give Your Walls Some Soul. I'm Shannon Grissom. Today what we're going to do is a painting from Times Square. I just returned from a trip from New York and I thought I'd try something different. Before we get into the painting, I've been getting a lot of emails and good viewer feedback, and I wanted to show you a painting that was inspired by our last episode. This painting here was done by Morgan Lampa. She's 9 years old, and she actually worked the crew on the show and was inspired to do a painting after that. This is awesome. This is her very first painting of oils on canvas, and she did a remarkable job. She's got great value contrast. She has good manners with her colors and her blending. She just did an incredible job. So I'm really excited that I was able to inspire somebody to paint. If you've been inspired or you've been thinking about painting and decided you're just going to go for it, give me an email, send a picture, and we can feature your painting on this show. The whole point of this show is to get people out there to give it a shot. Somebody looked at one of my paintings and said, well, I can do that. And I said, well, great. You know, that's why I'm here. Go ahead and do it. So today we're going to give Times Square some soul. I'm going to go ahead and remove Morgan's painting and show you the reference photo that I took. This is a very busy painting. Most of the work that I do, I really tend to like things with form, things that are calm. So the two things that make me want to paint something are first the color and then something that's three-dimensional. To work on something of this nature, such as this photograph of Times Square, I started it a couple weeks ago, and I just thought, God, this is too much to bring to the TV show. And I thought, you know what, I think I need to show everything that goes into this kind of a painting. So when you're painting something like Times Square, it's all about space. The shapes are very geometric. When you're painting pears and still life, this is more about form. So there's a huge difference in the way you think and the way that you look at a painting when you're doing something like this. I added the other challenge of deciding to make this a triptych. And a triptych is when you have three panels that create one painting. I like the vertical nature of each of the panels. They're 18 by 36. I thought that would lend itself to the nature of Times Square, which is very vertical. And so how did I attach them? Well, I'm going to go ahead and take this painting. It's very wet and messy, but I'm going to take it off the easel so you can kind of see what I did to the back of it. This is not real high-tech. To be very careful. I'm going to flip it around, and you can see the staples. I just stapled it to the back. Now that's not very secure. However, it kept it together long enough so that I could draw it and that everything would line up where it's supposed to line up when they're put together. I will remove these later and you can see what it'll look like separated. Normally on the show, what I do is I paint things in three stages. So I'll have three paintings, one at the beginning of the stage, one at the middle, and one at the end. This piece is so complicated that I'm not sure that we're going to do it that way. This is probably going to be a two-part show where I will show you the beginning stage here, and on the next show I'll show you how to finish the painting. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. This stick that you saw me waving around is called a maul stick. This is just a piece of wood that you can make these yourself, and you clip it onto the canvas, and when the painting is very wet, you're able to work on the piece without getting your hand in the paint. So that's the advantage of this. Okay, so here's my reference photo over here. I went ahead and did start on this third panel because I was concerned about getting, normally I don't care if I get the same color from day to day or from time to time. But this sky color was really important to me because that's going to make a difference whether things are receding or coming forward. And I have to say, in the home studio, I went through 3 different colors before I came up with what I really liked. The problem with the reference photograph is that it flattens things out. You don't get a sense of distance. You don't get the true color. So it's good to use that as a map as far as where to place things, but as far as true color and what it was really like, you really are called to rely on your memory. I was there right as sun was setting. It was just an incredible time to be there. Okay, so what I'm going to do is start with the easy part first, and I always do that. Start with the part that you can do and sneak up on what scares you. Well, you know, I usually don't use black, but today I'm going to because it's just easier to block it in that way. So I'm going to go ahead and put some of the black part of the buildings, and there really is an absence of light there, so it would be black. I'm going to use a lot of medium because I just want to scrub this on. We'll see how long it takes to get this down. So the building continues off under this triptych. You know, things that you need to consider when you're doing a triptych is that each individual panel needs to be able to stand on its own as a complete painting. So the composition has to be good in all three panels and to be able to work separately. I think it's pretty good, but I'm going to need to do some adjustments later to make sure that that works. I think the one nice thing about this shot is that this pole here goes off into all three sides, and that's a great unifying factor. And it also takes you start here, and it takes the composition and forces you to look in both directions. So I'm just going to throw some black down. Where do I see this? Some buildings here. You'll notice I'm not worried about whether I'm getting a straight line or, you know, I'm just covering it with some black. Let's see. Little people that are down there, you can't tell they're people, they're just little shapes. So I'm just going to put some blobs down here. There's a person. Where else is there some dark? Goes all the way to the bottom of this. And there's some buildings here as well. You know, one thing to consider, I am a very organic painter, so I paint things that have shapes that are not man-made. This is totally man-made, and there's a problem when you do that and you use filbert brushes. So I'm using filbert brushes that are rounded off at the top. However, if I were to do a lot of this type of painting, I'd be using something like this that has a flat top that would be easier to make the geometric shapes. I'm not going to go out and buy a bunch of these because this will probably do me for a couple years as far as doing something that's this geometric. Okay, so where do I see some dark? I'm not worried about getting a straight line here. When it gets to the point where I do need to get a straight line, I use a T-square. I go ahead and stick it right here and paint right next to it, and that way I can get my straight line. But this early in the painting process, so if I were, that's where I do it. This early in the painting process, I'm going to be going back and forth, and that's not important. So right now, we're just getting the color down. There's a lot of energy going on in Times Square. Normally you'll see a lot of brushwork and different colors. Normally my skies would not be a flat, solid color. But when you've got things that are this busy going on, you need to have a place for your eye to rest, some place that's calm. Just like you never hear on the radio, you know, too many fast songs without a slow song, you know, next to it to break it up. It's the same thing with the color. You've got to have a solid spot where your eye can rest. Okay, where am I going here? This light pole goes all the way up here. I'm pretty much drawing and painting at the same time. Got some rough marks going, but that's about it. Very vertical. Okay, this goes here. It's very abstract when you look at it this way. Just puzzle pieces of color. People there. What is the shape? So I'm just looking at these shapes and saying, okay, what's dark, what's light? Most of this is just black blobs. Black for me is too cold a color. I'm definitely, I can't wait to get back to this and get to the second stage where I start glazing over the top of that because it is really too cold for me. But right now, it'll give me a good base. Okay. I'm going to start from the top and kind of work down, just because with this much stuff going on, it's really easy for me to lose my place. Okay, I'll throw in some light. Two different types of light that I see. Normally your light source, if you're outdoors, is the sun. But here, the light source, I don't remember a moon being out. I would say here the light source is all the internal lights that are going out. So you've got multiple light sources. There's a lot going on. It's very busy. Some of it is warm, some of it's cool. You can see some of the orange in the lights. In fact, when I was flying into New York, I flew in at night, and I saw that all the lights were so orange, and there was such a density of population that it looked like, if you've ever seen Star Trek, it looked like a giant Borg cube. So I'm going to be very conscious of this, that all of the lights in here are going to have an orange cast to it by the time I'm done. Because they have orange lights there. So, I'm not worried about whether it's tidy, just getting the color down. Another thing that I am considering when I'm doing this is edges. You have hard and soft edges. I want to make sure that in the initial stage this edge is soft and you don't have big ridges. Because this is going to be in the background, I want that to kind of be flat. This whole section here with this light post will eventually have harder edges so that it'll pop out away from this stuff that's going on in the background. So I think that needs a little more orange. And I don't think this is a good brush for this. It's too loose, so I'm going to switch brushes after this. Okay. I'm just going to blend this together so that I don't have a hard edge, because you know what? Normally I do all the blending at the end. Because there's so much going on here, I want to make sure that I've got that all covered right at the beginning. Otherwise I'll forget. It's easy for me to lose my place when there's something this busy. Okay, so that's the end of a building. Now that definitely is going to need a harder edge, just so that you can tell that it is separate from the sky. But I'm going to wait till later. I don't want to get ahead of myself. Okay, what else is going on here? Now you could leave little holes for the windows, but that makes me tired. I'd prefer to do like I did here. On here I thought I'd leave the holes, because when you do leave the white of the canvas showing through, there is some light that can reflect through there, and that does help it, that glow. But it's a lot easier to paint a solid mass, throw in the light on top of it, and if I have to be careful, it takes the fun out of painting for me. So I'm just going to paint it all black. There are some painters that are very detail-oriented, and that is their fun, is to be that careful. I'm just not that way. Okay, that's dark. Building goes down there. What's this doing here? That's just all dark too. Okay, I see some kind of blue just... The other good thing is when you're looking at the reference photo from as far away as I am, you can't see any details. So it forces me to only paint the big shapes and not get lost in the details, because I simply can't see them. And I think the painter Helen van Wyck said the first thing you see is the last thing you paint. And gosh, I don't have any blue out. Can't believe that. Okay, so we're just throwing this down. Let's see. Got to know where to throw it down. It takes a lot more courage to throw a blob down and leave it be than it does to be careful. And for the longest time when I was painting, I was very referential, and it had to be exactly like the photograph. Now, I'm more concerned with whether it's going to be a good painting than whether it matches exactly what Times Square was doing at that particular point in time. Let's see, I saw some bright cobalt blue. Where did I see that? It's about right there, right here. So right now, this is just looking very abstract. And it may look pretty abstract through this whole thing. This is probably going to be a two-part show. Okay. I see some violet going on there. Oh, this is cool. I get distracted when there's this much going on. I want to talk to you about this side here. This is actually, this blob of yellow and red down at the bottom here is my version of moving taxi cabs. Now, I definitely have to tell you that because there's no way you could know that from looking at that. But really, when you're out in a scene and you're in person and you're looking at one thing, and in this case, I really was looking at all these lights here, everything else to either side is blurred. You really can't see out of you know it's there, you know there's blobs of color and just streaks of things happening, but you really can't see that, all you can see. So when I finish this painting, this panel here is going to be extremely detailed, and the rest of it off to the side will be fairly loose. So I would say if you want to know as far as how much done this painting is, this is about halfway, this is about 3/4, and this is just starting. Okay, so I got sidetracked when I talked about the taxi cabs. Well, I saw this bus, and if you look at the reference photo, I'm going to point to this bus here. Well, it's just a blob of color, and I'm just seeing pinks and blues and some turquoise and all kinds of stuff. It is not going to look like a bus when I'm done, but it'll look like a blob of all that color. In fact, I'd probably have to tell you even in the reference photo that that's what that was. I just happen to be there and remember it. Okay. I would recommend, if you're going to do a triptych, to secure it better than I did. I just stapled the backs, and I have a canvas behind it so that it doesn't get pushed off. The problem with that is I would put a crossbar in there and staple it to the crossbar behind it, and that way you'd have something better for it to be against. Now when I'm trying to paint, I'm holding both sides to make sure that I don't break it apart. Okay, so here's a pink blob. While I've got this color out, I'm seeing, is there anything else I see that's around that color? Nope, not really. And I don't really like too much pink and black next together, so I'm going to put that away. Time to get out some warmer colors like orange. You'll see right now I'm using these scruffier scrub type brushes because I'm going to scrub in this initial color. And also for smaller spaces, you do have more control. I'm thinking one of the things I could have done that I didn't do with this painting is you know, everybody has a sense of scale. I talk about it almost on every show, and mine is quite large. I like to paint big. And that might have been my problem. If I had made this maybe 3 or 4 times the size of this, I probably would have been a lot more comfortable with doing this painting. So why am I doing a painting on TV that I'm not quite comfortable with? Because I wanted to show you that it could happen to you. And you can do one of 2 things. You can see it all the way through and see what kind of lesson you're learning, and sometimes you get surprised. Or you know, just chalk it up to, yep, that didn't work. In real world, not all my paintings work. Thankfully, though, fewer and fewer are bombs. Whoa, losing my maul stick here. There's some orange. God, there's just some great color there. Some red. Let's see what's happening here. This is red. I like this red next to the orangey red next to the blue. That's happy. That's because they're complementary colors. They like being together. There were colors that I changed in the billboards over here because they simply didn't work together. They were awful. One thing, when I do get done with this, that you won't see are, I'm forcing myself not to get uptight and do all the lettering that you see on the signs. I'm just going to do blobs and suggest it. Okay, that's just a bunch of red. Red blobs. I'm all over the place, and some days are like that. Some days are very organized, and the painting is very systematical and methodical, but today is all over. Okay. There's more people there. I'm looking still to find my place. Okay. I'm going to get rid of some of the brushwork on this building. I'm going over, see this light pole? I am going over the light pole because you don't want the brush strokes to look like it ran up to here and then got scared and ran away. You need to have them go over, and then when that dries, I'll be able to paint this over the top, and it'll be clean. I've got so much medium that I figured I better need to blend this now so that it doesn't stick in different, going in different directions. And that's the other thing. Normally, if you look at my pairs, my brush strokes are all over the place. They're in various directions. Here, I think the direction is very important. I need a lot of vertical movement here because it's more about shape than it is about form. Okay, there's that. I need to mix some color, make a nice light violet. I'm so used to painting in lots of light that everything has a darker value than I think I should make it. So I need to really darken this considerably. I'm not going to add black to darken it. I'm going to add this complement, which is an orange or a yellow to purple. Ooh, what a nice neutral that is. Not what I was looking for, but I like the color. Oh, that's better. So what did I do to darken the purple? I added Cad Yellow Deep, which is opposite on the color wheel. It's going to make it a nice neutral. And then that was just a little bit too much, so I added some more purple back into it. Gonna wipe my knife so I don't contaminate the other colors. Okay. I'm putting it right over the blue because I changed my mind on what I wanted there. That's your right as a painter. Okay, it goes like this, right above the bus. The bus that only I can see. They had some great billboards there. If you like to paint large and you look at some of these billboards that are stories high, it would just be incredible. It would be so much fun to do. Okay. Let's fill in some of the dark again. I told you I was going to start from top to bottom, and I'm all over the place, and that's just how today's working. And so I've had people ask me, how do you approach a painting? Well, you hear from left to right, from top to bottom, from what else? Back to front. But basically, I think I do have a natural tendency to start with the thing that I like. Move on to something else after. Okay, that's dark. Right next to this. It's dark. See, it really, I'm sure right now you're looking at it going, that still doesn't look like anything. It probably won't for a long time. Looks like dark buildings. Okay. What is this over here? This goes like this. We've got a lot of light there. So instead, over here I painted dark, and then later I'll go in and slap some windows in, right? Well, I'm going to do the opposite in the lighter area where there's a lot more windows here, so I'm going to actually paint light here and go over the top of that with black later. And the light, again, is very orange. There are some places there where I do see a blue kind of light, but for the most part, it's very orange. Okay, so this goes up like this. That's more of a peach. I don't like that. That's better. I just have too much red in my brush. This is one of those oh wells. It will add interest later. That's orange. There's a row of windows here. Another row of windows here. When I drew this out, I was more careful, but that usually starts changing as soon as I start painting. Okay. I'm going to get this separation here. Part of a building there. Again, if I had geometric forms in my brushes, it would probably make cleaner lines. Okay, and then there's actually some light here. There's light at the end of the reference photo right here, but I think that would not be good to come off the canvas like that, so I'm going to go ahead and pretend like it's just dark. This side of the triptych, that's one thing I need to be careful of, does not have as many interesting shapes as the other two. And when I set this up, I really did think that it had that it could work separately. I'm not so sure now, but we'll see at the end. Okay, there's some buildings there, and these we're painting at separate times, and you've got some that's matte and some that's not. I'm just going to go over top of that, so there's a little more cohesiveness. Normally I don't worry about painting the sides or the cracks, but I'm definitely going to do that because it helps it get unified. Okay. So I'm not above, you know, I've talked about it earlier. If I need to do a straight line, let me find a good little squared off brush. If I need to do a straight line, I'm going to use a squared off brush. They're called brights. That's the technical term. And yes, I will use a straight edge because I can't draw a straight line. Can't paint a straight line. And I just, that didn't work either, but normally it does. I had too much paint on my brush. And then I typically just clean it off and so that I don't mess up the next one I try to do that's straight. This one, it's a little, wow. I had a whole bunch of paint on that side. I'm going to wipe that off so I don't get that on the rest of the painting. I'll turn around after I've been painting, you know, have a big painting session. I've got it all over my face. I don't, you know, scratch my arm and it's on there. I have to find the source. Okay. The other thing that I'll do to get a good straight, clean straight edge, and I'm going to switch brushes because I don't think this one was good either for that. What am I looking for when I look at all these brushes? Okay, this is good. This is better though. There's a little flat, it's very stiff, and it's very thin, so I can get a lot of medium on this brush and get a good clean edge. You can tell I don't have too many of these because I don't typically have to worry about that. Okay, this time I'll move it over this way so that I can get my straight edge over here. I didn't move it over far enough. Okay, so I'm putting my straight edge here. There's a point where it doesn't reach, which is a bummer. And I usually get a ruler out for that. I didn't bring that. Okay, so that gives you a nice clean line. This little area here didn't have clean lines. It was more like lettering. So I'm just going to throw some blue in. Because that looks like it was a blue-violet. So this is a really good way to paint. I've not done this before, to have the reference photo be so far away because you really, really are forced to simplify. And a lot of times when something goes wrong with a painting, or when you're just painting, people get concerned with the details, and they think that to make the painting better, they need to put in more details. But a lot of times, it's more of eliminating what is unnecessary rather than adding more. A good example of this is that this side is a lot busier than I painted it. I still am not going to add a lot of detail to this because it would just be too overwhelming. This is where I'm going to focus the detail. So I can't see from this place, and I'll bet you if I got my nose right up to that reference photo, I couldn't tell you what these words said. And the only reason I know they were words at all is because I was there in person. So I'm just painting what I see, blobs of purple and red and blue. And what was next to that? Some sort of circle. So just gonna, I think I drew it over here before, but you can always change the location. Add a little blue, fill that in. Yeah, that's good. Okay, this is kind of a lighter color, but again, unless it's illuminated, there's light and then there's bright. This one's kind of this is neither. Let's see what happens here. Again, there's a lot of little, oops, that's too yellow. A lot of little detail here that I'll put over the top. Right now I'm just going to put the basics in. The other thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to move this all the way over because this is not supported. Remember, I stapled these together, and if I try to paint on this and push on it, I'm afraid I will, it'll come falling apart. So, so I moved it. Okay, that looks good. It's still probably not looking like much to you, but it's going to take a while before it gets there. Let's see. Fill in more of the dark. Okay, we had a blue thing here. See, I can't tell what these things are. There was that. There's just actually more blue than it looks like. And I'm going to do a great, nice, straight ultramarine. There's a nice organic shape. I love it. I don't have to be careful. I wonder what this was. Doesn't really matter. That's the other thing. There are more geometric shapes the closer you get to the top, but as you get to the bottom, it becomes more organic because there are people down there. Okay. Needs a little light. The other thing about painting something like this is it's in a color scheme that I wouldn't necessarily use, which is also good to push the boundaries. Right now, everything I'm doing is in this bright, warm, in-your-face kind of color. So to have some of these cools and blues and blacks and get that all balanced is a challenge for me because it's not something I'm normally, doing. So it's good practice. I do consciously get myself out of my comfort zone periodically so that I don't get stuck in a rut. Okay, that's dark. It is real easy to get lost. You see all these things, you don't know where you were before. This was a blob. That was kind of a person. I'm trying to find if there's any more dark that I just need to put down. There was the little bus thing. See, I'm happier when I can slap it on. Okay, what's going down here? I need to actually lift the canvas up a little bit so that I can get to some of this part that's underneath. See what that's doing. It goes like that. Now, if you imagine really hard, you can tell that these are little people here. I will throw some gestures on the next episode so that you will be able to figure that out by then. Okay. What else is there? There's just like this gray color down there. Pinky gray. It was cold. Cold and wet. We were lucky that it wasn't snowing that day. I like that violet. That's not what I see, but I like it better than what I see, so I'm putting it down. That's what's great about painting. My sister calls it Shannon's world. Might as well. Okay, I think this little shape looks awkward, this little light part here. And I might throw a little bit of this in here as a unifying factor and then just finish it off with some dark. This is a case where I'm not paying attention to what's going on over there in the reference photo. The question I'm asking myself is it going to help the painting? If it's not going to help the painting, then it doesn't happen, or at least not on purpose. There are plenty of times I do things that don't help the painting, but Not on purpose. Okay, there's that. Okay, that still looks like real abstract things. And let's see, what else can I do to kind of clean that up a little bit? Work on this little... It's funny, you know, somebody asked me why I don't put the other brushes down. Maybe it's for balance. Okay, here's some of that pole. I just kind of want to, I don't want to lose sight of where that pole goes. It doesn't go, I think it might be better if it actually went off the page instead of, that one goes off, instead of leaving that space. Yeah, I'm going to have it go off the painting. It stops here in the reference photo. I'm going to have it keep going. Yeah. Now, for me, the fun part would be to go ahead and make this whole thing look round and three-dimensional because, again, since I'm so into making something have a form, the only thing that has a form is this pole. But I'm going to refrain from doing that until the next show. I'll also let this dry enough so that I can reinforce the back, and that way I'll show you if you are going to do a triptych the right way to do it rather than the way I did. Okay. What's going on over here? Not much. When I talked earlier about simplifying, I meant it. I am really simplifying. Okay, so there's that bit of orange there, some gray. These look like little tower things. Got to push it over again so it doesn't break. Okay. Okay. Okay, what can I do to get some, you know, that's when you're in a time crunch, that's the one thing I do look at is what can I do to get to a place faster. What's going on over here? We'll fill these in. That is another good thing about doing this show is that I would tend to just kind of piddle around with it and paint a lot slower. So the show helps me to again, take me out of my comfort zone, paint a little bit faster, and see what can happen. Okay, there's that, there's that, there's that. I think I need to get some sort of edge there or it's going to bug me. Okay. Usually put it on the inside edge. There was just this band of light there. I'm going right over the light pole because, again, you don't want it to look like it stopped right there. That's going to be better, yeah. One thing that I'm doing now that all the teachers I've had have told me not to do is they say, cover the canvas first before you finish and get caught up in the details. And usually, I try to do that, but you know what? You got to have some fun while you're doing this. Okay, so now where are the other big spots of dark that I can do that will make this thing make sense? We've got some blue here. This is dark. This is more of a gray. So I'm not just adding black because it's more of this kind of a gray, a little bit of blue. I'm saying this kind of gray, and you can't see what's on my palette. It has a little bit more warmth to it. Okay. I don't quite like that. I'll add a little more blue, a little more violet. Now, what you can see on the other side, see how you can tell how I've blocked this in and how it's very crude and rough. I blocked these other sides in the same way, and the second time I went over them, I started to make them tidy with, you know, sit there with the the maul stick and the T-square, and I'd start to make the shapes have straighter edges and look tidy. So when you're first putting it in, this is what I do. I just rough it in, and then later the next step would be to do that. Let's see, there's some windows here, but you can barely see them, which is good. This is just a slight, subtle thing. And you can see the windows, but there's no lights on. There's a little bit more warmth up here. And they're not all, it's funny, they're not all in straight little rows, and because the light inside isn't just one big square. You've got certain areas of the window that are lit and certain areas that are not. So they're not geometric shapes, which is great. For me, anyway. Okay, what's this area I've been leaving off? It needs some separation here. I'm going right over the light pole again. First, I'll go over this, then I'll come back over the top. And again, I'll make it tidy later. Okay, so there's that part of the building. It's kind of doing that. Now, I just think this side of the triptych with the shapes is so boring compared to the rest of the painting that I'm going to start adding things that aren't there just because I want some balance. I don't want this to be boring. And there's just not enough red for me, so I'm going to pretend there is. So if you're looking at the reference photo and saying, where is she getting that? I don't see it. Well, I don't see it either. I'm just doing it. And where am I going to put the red? Well, it's going to look nice next to the blue. That's a happy place for it. What kind of shapes am I going to put in? See, this is what happens. I start being referential, and then I look at it and say, no, this is going to be better for the painting. I want a little more orange. That's already happy. And we could put a warm color next to this orange hair, too. And there needs to be, these were, skinny, long shapes. There needs to be some fat expanses, too, even though this is so vertical. I think I will fill this in with some black just to, I'm simplifying. I talked about simplifying before. I can't tell you how many times I've run into trouble on a painting and I've thought that adding more was just really going to help it, and it's more what I take out that makes it better. Okay, that's starting to make me happy. Still doesn't look like anything, but that's okay. We're going to make this a long billboard. And we're going to cut it. I think I'll make it cooler. Still red, but a cooler red. See, these colors are starting to echo that shape better. And actually, I think if I were to maybe put something across over here too, that would help. So this is very, very abstract at this point. You can train your mind to think this way. Okay. Like that. Okay, what are we doing with the bus? Maybe we need some dark to fill in the spaces. I need to get back from my work, so I'm getting back, and so I get back from my work and I just, normally I have a mirror, and I look in the mirror and say, okay, what's it doing? Well, this side of the canvas is very dark. This will eventually have some color up there, so that'll be a nice unifying force. This still, I think, even though the reference photo does have all this vertical stuff going on, that really kind of bothers me. So I think I need, the other thing is there's no green over here, so I think I'll add, in these spaces that, I'm totally getting away from the reference photo. In these spaces that I haven't filled in yet, I'm going to add some green for some balance. Let's see, we'll put a cool green next to this cool red. Oh, that's good. And a warmer green next to the warmer red. And not too far away. Let's see, this is good. see. You know, we're not going to do a what was I thinking part of this segment. Normally you see that at the end of every show. But I think this whole painting is one of those what was I thinking segments. So I'm just going to continue. We're going to cover the whole canvas. And I can tell at this stage that we are definitely going to have a part 2. Okay, what's going on over here? Need some blue. That's kind of a, that was not what I wanted. I was contaminating my colors. Okay. That's better. Even though this is a wimpy brush, still better. Okay. Maybe I'll blend some of that together so we can, so I don't get locked in. See, if I blend and soften these edges, I'm not locked into anything, and if I change my mind later, which you guys know I probably will, I won't be stuck. You won't see any of these ridges that I'll have to paint over. So I'm going to do that now. Somebody asked me if I was, after the trip to New York, was I really inspired by what I saw there? And it was great for the amount of time that I was there. And I guess the only thing that could be considered remotely New York that I will be painting soon are big apples. It's just, that would be as inspired as I got from there. I really like space and form. And the reason I'm saying that over and over is that some people are very comfortable painting landscapes, some people like still lifes, some people portraits, and I always thought that I should be able to do everything, and I think it's good to try everything, but there's nothing wrong with having a preference of what really makes you feel good. Okay, I think having black on the edge would be good because that'll stop. When you're painting, you're directing traffic in a painting, and you're telling people where to look. By having this pole here, you're telling people to look all over, but you also need to direct traffic and have it come back in. Otherwise, they're going off the page. So this is good because this movement, I changed this so that this brings you in. I need to do something similar here to bring you down. And you've got this kind of like line of dark that will help you bring you back here and then up again, so that you have a circular motion. So when I'm improvising some of these shapes that I'm going to be putting in, I need to be conscious of what's going to help direct traffic in the painting. Michael used to say, my teacher, that when you first start painting, it's like when you're learning how to drive a car. You need to learn how to brake, you need to learn how to read the signs, you need to learn how to do all these things, and it's hard to keep everything in mind. But after you guys start doing it for a while, it's like anything else. Hell, you could drive through 3 or 4 towns and not know where you've been, and that's the same kind of thing when you're painting. That will happen. Okay, I need a clean red brush, or a brush for red, and I need a stiff one, because I'm going to scrub that in. That's not stiff enough. See, the longer they are, the less control you have, and at this point, yeah, this is good. This is a good stiff brush. Okay. These shapes are too much the same, so I'm actually going to and I'm going to give this one a little tower too. Why not? Okay. Some more dark there. You got dark there, big old blop of dark there. I'm again directing traffic this way. go into the painting rather than out. This will be a resting spot right here. Stark blob. There's some little people over there. They're not little, they just look little because they're so far away. And what they really are just, okay, there's some, this is the silhouette of the top of them, and then there's some guy walking here. So it's more like, just kind of like that. That's a person. Here's 3. What am I going to do with this bus? This is more of a movement, kind of like this here. So I'm going to go ahead and put some purple just because I haven't done it yet and I like it. And it has some neon kind of blue in the reflection in the windows from the sky. And it does have more light than I'm putting in there, so I'm going to scrub some of that in too. Okay. Okay, not going to take the time to blend all that because we're getting close to the end of the show. This is definitely going to be a 2-parter because I know that there are people out there that go, God, we waited all this time, we didn't get to see the end and how it's finished up. So what I'm going to do is I'll go ahead and base in the rest of this at home because I know you guys already know how to do that. You've watched me do it for an hour. And then I won't work on it. I'll bring it in. And I will take this painting to its completion during the next show so you can see some glazing techniques, which will be great because I'm going to glaze some warm over the top of that. You'll be able to see that this gets some form. And we'll take a look at it and take it apart. I'll have a lot of time to look at it and say, okay, I could do this to it, I could do that to it. Basically, when I'm thinking about what needs to be done with the painting, it's more, I step away from it. I'm not painting on it. And then I can just kind of make a mental list of where I want to go with it. So this has been a good exercise for me. It's totally got me out of my comfort zone. Made me look at things in a different way. So if there's something you feel like trying to paint, go ahead and do it. Just, you know, there are things that I paint because I just love them. They make me feel good, and they usually come out really well because that's where my motivation is. This one, I love the idea of painting Times Square, but I wasn't that crazy about doing it. And so now it's as much as overcoming that and being able to get the paint down, because that is part of the process. So I definitely want to encourage you to get out there and paint. If anybody, you know, I love to hear from people who've never painted before and now they are painting. So email me, send me pictures of your paintings, and I can see what you're doing. And I'd love to share them on the show if it's okay with you. And we'll take it from there. This bus